Well, now we come to the fun part of this course. The cardiovascular system has 3 weeks devoted to it because it is an incredibly consequential system, and it's also a very complicated system without which the body has virtually no chance of surviving. We're going to study the cardiovascular system in 3 parts. The first week that we're in now, week 10, we'll be looking at the heart's gross anatomy and physiology as it relates to its chambers, its valves, and its conduction system. In the second week, we're going to talk about the characteristics of vessels, so veins and arteries and capillaries, as well as the alveoli. In the third week, we're going to talk about blood. In some places, you'll hear blood classified as part of the cardiovascular system, and that's fine. It's important to remember that blood is connective tissue in nature, and you can certainly make an argument that it doesn't belong in the cardiovascular system, that its presence in the cardiovascular system is actually a byproduct of its own function. But you probably won't be asked to differentiate between that anywhere moving forward in your role, so you can think of blood as being part of the cardiovascular system. It is important that you remember that it's connective tissue in nature. So when we look at the heart, we're going to go through and we're going to perform an activity called Trace a Drop of Blood. Trace a Drop of Blood is designed to help you visualize how blood flows through the entire body and where issues and problems can come from when things are not right in the cardiovascular system as it relates to the heart. The heart should be thought of as 2 separate pumps. You only have one heart, but the right side of the heart and the left side of the heart are responsible for 2 entirely different functions within. So even though both are present, the heart is really a 2-pump organ with a ventricle on the right and a ventricle on the left, atria on the right, atria on the left. So think of it as 2 pumps put together, not one pump that perfuses the entire body. The significance of it is this. The left side of the heart is responsible for all of the functions that you think of when you think of the heart and the circulation of blood. So when the left heart contracts, particularly the left ventricle of the heart contracts, that's what's pushing blood through all of the body. We're calling that the systemic circuit. So from the left ventricle of the heart, that's where you're pushing oxygenated blood to all of the body's tissues. And then your venous blood, after perfusion has happened at the capillary beds, it's bringing it back up for reoxygenation. Now, when that circulation comes back around, so once the left heart has ejected all of its blood or it has finished ejecting blood, it travels through the body, does its perfusion, it comes back up. It doesn't drop back into the left heart, actually drops back into the right heart. So the right heart is responsible for only one thing. The right heart is responsible for circulating blood through the lungs. So anytime you hear left heart, you should immediately think systemic circuit or blood that's going all through the body. Anytime you hear right heart, you should immediately think lungs and pulmonary system. Right side of the heart brings blood through the lungs, left side of the heart takes care of everything else. There is a significant difference between the left and the right heart in the sense of blood pressure. Obviously, it takes much more blood pressure to perfuse the entire body than it does simply to push some blood through the lungs. Another key element of that is that the lowest pressure in the human body could be measured in the alveoli of the lungs and in the capillaries. So if the right side of the heart begins to squeeze with too much contractility or too much force, what ends up happening is it's like squeezing out a sponge. So fluid begins to leak out. You can survive dead tissue in the right heart. It's very difficult to survive dead tissue in the left heart. So it's important to keep in mind that most of the anomalies of the right heart, with the exception of genetic anomalies, most of the problems found in the right side of the heart are actually the result of problems in the left side of the heart. But anytime you hear right heart, you should think of perfusing blood through the lungs and the pulmonary system. And anytime you hear left heart, you should think about how blood moves through the entire body. Now let's look at the trace a drop of blood aspect of our week.